TikTok and Instagram influencers may be spending their whole lives chasing money and fame, but if you're a real one, you'll know the real flex lies in power. Just look at superheroes or supervillains for that matter. Watching them and their special skills almost makes you want to instantly bow down to them in subservience. If you don't believe me, then I'm going to back up my claims with the top 25 most epic power displays in superhero movies. Johnny Blaze, being played by Nicolas Cage, remains one of the best casting choices of all time, primarily because Mr. Cage is essentially Ghost Rider in real life too. I mean, minus the flames and eternal damnation to hell. However, he's not always about rider motorbikes and taking down demons. Sometimes he likes to get into construction work as well. Take a look at this scene where he not only makes a mockery of military-grade weapons, but also transforms whatever the heck that machine is supposed to be called into a flaming battle weapon. Even the way he laughs as he takes down those clueless fools one after the other was pretty epic. Plus, you gotta love a dude who eats bullets as if he's having his morning cereal. The various powers he displayed in this scene were all special in their own unique way, and it makes you wonder if Ghost Rider can turn construction machinery into weapons of mass destruction. And you can imagine what would happen if he were to take control of a Jaeger from Pacific Rim. Yeah, all the kaijus would remain underwater for the rest of eternity now, wouldn't they?
And from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one!
Imagine being as powerful as Magneto after Professor X helped him lift a freaking submarine, and then you get yet another booster from the god of mutants. Eric unleashing his wrath in this scene was brutal and highly ominous, primarily because it happens to him right after he's dealt an extremely tragic blow in the demise of his family. The moment he realizes that he can even control the tiny fractions of metal inside gravel and stones, he knew he was the closest to being unstoppable as he'd ever been in his whole life. Even someone as overpowered as Apocalypse was looking at this man like, damn, what have I done? The angry burst of emotions added to the scene's overall value and made me feel as if I was watching some kind of horror opera show. I've really got to give it to the special effects team for making this moment look as epic as it did. That tornado looks so deadly. They should have included it in the new Twisters movie with Glenn Powell. Then again, maybe the only twisting he's interested in is with Sydney Sweeney. Who would have thought that the man who would end Krypton's final chance of revival would be its sole survivor?
Krypton had its chance!
Kal-El is the most powerful superhero from the DCEU, so it's not really surprising for us to see him achieve the impossible on a daily basis, but even so, that world engine looked like it was the tech version of Galactus. I guess it's important to present the obstacle as unbeatable if you want to try and hype up the protagonist, but man, come on, Clark Kent pulled out every last iota of his power to make sure his planet didn't consume his home. Superman charging at the world engine despite being hit by the beam was a brilliant display of determination and grit, but what really took it away was that shriek he unleashes right before smashing the planet destroyer to oblivion. Even Zod must have been wondering how someone so inexperienced was able to pull off such an impeccable feat.
You're a monster, Zod.
If I did have to criticize this scene though, then I'd probably say it would have looked better if Superman also unleashed his lasers at the same time, but you know what, that's just me being extra picky. Imagine being so powerful that your mere presence can change the tide of the MCU's most phenomenal and grandiose battle of all time. That's right, Captain Marvel may not be the most liked character from the franchise, but she does have the kind of power to scare the living daylights out of anyone who dares to stand in her path. Her sudden appearance in the Endgame battle was enough to tilt the scales in favor of the Avengers, as she absolutely wrecked Thanos' ship with little to no effort.
Danvers.
This was the same ship that was supposed to be the Mad Titan's trump card, and it takes Captain Marvel a total of 5 business seconds to render it obsolete. It's the ease with which she pulls this off that actually proves her merit as the MCU's most overpowered fighter. Thanos must have definitely reconsidered his whole finger-snapping plan for at least a moment after seeing the kind of power he was up against here. Yeah, I know he manages to hold his own against her, but that's only because of the Infinity Stone, so I won't really count it as a W for him.
They are shaping me into something gaudy. Something lethal.
If you ever needed a god-level figure in the DC universe, look no further than Dr. Manhattan. This man has the kind of power that would even make a holy deity bow down to him in subjugation. That's probably why it's so hard to believe that this scene begins with his wife shouting at him. Maybe this proves that it doesn't matter, even if you're a celestial or cosmic being, at the end of the day, you can't piss off the missus, right? Anyway, my focus is on Dr. Manhattan's abilities, and he proves his mettle by casually summoning a planetary clock while levitating on Mars as part of some meditation exercise. I guess it is only appropriate for him to create a clock, considering he had a watch in his hand when he transformed from a human to a god. These powers may not appear like much on the surface, but it's important to note that the ability to create is one of the most elite skills a person could have. Then again, this is no ordinary person we're talking about here.
They claim their labors are to build a heaven. Yet their heaven is populated with horrors. Perhaps
You shouldn't have killed my mom and squished my Walkman.
Speaking of celestial beings, here's another one of them, but in the form of a villain from a competitive studio. There's no questioning Ego's strength and abilities when it comes to whatever he showcased against his own son, but Peter Quill standing up to his dad and eventually winning the battle was a display that just can't be understated. Yeah, he does give up his powers in order to make this happen, but the process was what elevated his actions. Also, there's the part where he tells Ego he shouldn't have ended his mom and crushed his Walkman. I guess that's the MCU equivalent of killing John Wick's dog, because what followed definitely gave off similar vibes. The moment I recognised the chain starting up, I knew Ego wasn't going to last very long. The visual effects are top notch as always, but more importantly, we see the son finally overcoming the father, which always hits different when it's presented in the form of good versus evil. But yeah, who would have thought that someone like Star-Lord had this kind of celestial power locked up inside him this whole time? Whenever we use the word bomb, it's usually in reference to a weapon of war or an extremely attractive woman. In this case, it's the mutant known as Sebastian Shaw, who absorbs a literal bomb as if it was nothing. This man's power may not be flamboyant, but it's definitely amongst the most effective ones I've ever seen in any X-Men film. Kevin Bacon's unforgettable line delivery further accentuates the character because it presents him as a mutant who's bored with power.
You're one of them?
Imagine what the Colonel must have gone through in the space of less than a minute. He thought he could secure his safety with a hand grenade, but Shaw proved that notion wrong faster than Domino's delivers a pizza. Well, to be fair, I guess if you get slow delivery pizza in your area, then I suppose that comparison's not going to make any sense to you, but you get what I mean, don't you? Anyway, the nonchalance is so prominent that it's almost disturbing. And the real kaboom happens when Shaw redirects the entire blast to the Colonel. Yeah, that dude picked the wrong day to be on the boat, didn't he?
The fun stuff is what I can do with it once I've got it.
You know why Thanos waited so long to attack the Avengers? He was waiting for the big three to depart: Odin, the Ancient One, and Yondu with his arrow. The part where he ends an entire space fleet with nothing but his arrow was an impeccable display of skill, and I definitely had no idea that he was capable of such destruction until that point. The scene kicks off with Yondu, Rocket Raccoon and Baby Groot walking past fleet members while the arrow does all the work. Then it progresses even further into the destructive force when the arrow starts taking lives in cursive. Seriously, the design of the arrow's path literally felt as if it was trying to write a message but kept coming across enemies to take down. The fact that Yondu hid this ability up until this scene only further proves that he really let Peter Quill off easy in the first film. Also, if this is what he's truly capable of, then why the heck did his own people think of betraying him in the first place? Doesn't matter now, because the man got rid of everyone on that ship with nothing more than a couple of whistles. Destroying Thanos' ship was definitely an elite moment, but that wasn't the first time we saw Carol Danvers unleashing her powers on a giant space vessel. The first movie gave us a test run of those skills back when she unleashed her true self and went berserk after that. Okay, maybe I shouldn't call it berserk because she doesn't have to go all out to make her point here. Now, Ronan the Accuser was a pretty badass villain when we first saw him back in 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, it took a freaking Infinity Stone to end him, didn't it? However, even he cowers in front of Carol when he sees that she doesn't only stop his ship, but also his first batch of fighters. It's such a dominating display that it makes you wonder why she doesn't finish the job once and for all. I mean, she's able to destroy the first ship with so much ease that it really shouldn't have taken her much effort to wreck Ronan's entire fleet. I suppose the only reason Captain Marvel doesn't end him here is because she wanted to make sure the Guardians of the Galaxy got their moment to shine.
No more weapons! No more systems! No more! No more superpowers.
Even gods need to dominate in a way that humans understand, which was why Apocalypse figured that the best way to send his message across was to get a hold of the planet's entire nuclear collection and threaten the entirety of humanity with it. The monologue he delivers is quite chilling as well, because we know the man isn't messing around here. He will unleash all of those nuclear missiles, and he will end the human race if that's what it takes to allow his mutants to become the next dominant species on the planet. Yeah, his name makes a lot more sense now that we have context for his intentions, right? But of course, what's important to note is that he was able to get all of this done due to his own powers. The man managed to trump Charles Xavier in mind games, for crying out loud. After all, to be able to control the world's deadliest weapons by just turning your eyes white has got to be one of the best flexes any supervillain has come up with in the modern era.
You can fire your arrows from the Tower of Babel!
Humans don't like using their brains when it comes to overpowered entities, do they? When you can see that Doomsday and Superman are hashing it out with each other, the best thing to do would be to take inspiration from Dr. Ishiro and let them fight.
Let them fight.
Firing your deadliest missile to end an army threat may be a decent idea in most scenarios, but not when your collateral damage is freaking Superman. Luckily, the Man of Steel wasn't going to go down so easily, and he revives himself after a bit of prolonged sunbathing. I really like how we can see his recovery live, because, well, it's definitely going to take a lot more than Batman to defeat a nuked up Doomsday. Oh yeah, there's also the fact that Superman literally carried Doomsday to space, so we could have just tossed him away to Venus or something and let him freeze to death. Do you think Martian Manhunter was there this whole time and watching the fight as if it was no big deal? I mean, that dude really needs to learn a thing or two about priorities.
Said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
We might be used to seeing the Avengers assemble, but don't forget that the Guardians of the Galaxy did it well too. I mean, just look at how they unite to destroy Ronan by fusing with the Power Stone. Of course, we find out later that a lot of it had to do with Star-Lord being half god, but that doesn't take anything away from how amazing this power display is. It felt as if all the Guardians were merging into one unbeatable entity, which then took down an extremely overpowered opponent with an S-tier blast. Yeah, as per my Captain Marvel entry, they're basically just doing what she should have done back in the 90s, but I sure as heck ain't complaining one bit. How often do you get to see the power of family without Vin Diesel being a part of it? I swear, the only Guardian who lost his life before this epic encounter was the dude who became famous for the exact same moments. Yes, you heard that right. The one and only ex-wife of Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, put in serious efforts to save the life of a man. Of course, it's Asmira from Aquaman, but it's still an amazing thing to witness. The power display is amazing as well because she's standing there controlling all of those waves with precision. If that wasn't enough for you, she also manages to save Arthur's dad's life by sucking out the water from his lungs. Thank God for that, otherwise Aquaman would have probably had the father version of Batman's Martha issues. I know it's not a god level move, but it's the way this scene is presented that elevates it beyond so many cool entries. Plus, the effects team did manage to put in enough effort to make the moment look nice, even though it may not have appeared realistic enough. How often do you come across a man who says, "I survived the impact of a nuclear bomb," and looks like the freaking Wolverine? Yeah, that's exactly why Logan is such a loved and respected character in the X-Men franchise, and his countering of the Nagasaki bomb was a sight to behold. The man was able to take on the might of the entire bomb, and even though he wasn't directly hit with it, there's no denying the fact that it would take a god to recover from that level of damage. He doesn't even use the protection for himself, but rather for a dude who has a weird sense of gratitude. Anyway, what we witnessed here was nothing short of epic, especially if you consider the fact that Logan was as good as new the moment he recovered from his burns. I wonder what Mr. Oppenheimer himself would have had to say about this phenomenon. Everyone recognizes Doctor Strange for his impeccable sorcery and his globally renowned alter ego Sherlock Holmes. But has anyone ever stopped to consider how much this man loves his art? That's exactly what we're going to be discussing here as Doctor Strange takes on Thanos in what I personally felt was a very even matchup right until the final part where the Mad Titan uses his cheat code, his Infinity Stones, to win the encounter. The highlight for me is when Strange can counter a blast from Thanos that's strong enough to create a black hole. Not only does he make it seem effortless, the Sorcerer Supreme also has enough time to create butterflies out of this tactic. Now that's what I like to call dedication to one's craft. On a serious note though, this was visually appealing and satisfying to watch at the same time, so it's a huge W for Strange, even though he loses the fight. It's back-to-back entries from the same film, and the only difference is that this one is in my top 10. We all know that Thor is a brutal opponent and an overpowered god, but it doesn't matter how tough you are, there's no way you can survive the wrath of a freaking star and then go on to pull off something as epic as the Wakanda entrance.
Bring me Thanos!
See, power doesn't always have to be about lightning blasts and hammer shots from the God of Thunder. Just as we'd seen with the Wolverine entry, this scene focuses on Thor's resistance. The man gave us a solid display of his true capabilities as he not only held the system for Stormbreaker open, but also took the star's force like an absolute boss. Yeah, he does collapse right after that, and things look a little bit tricky, but as soon as he gets his new Thunder Axe, this man is ready to give us a show. It's not often that we see Thanos being dominated in such an outright manner, but Wanda Maximoff had the power of love on her side when she absolutely took him apart in their brief encounter. Sure, this isn't the same guy who ended Vision in front of her eyes, but the Scarlet Witch doesn't care as long as she gets to shred a purple titan. The effortlessness with which Wanda defeats Thanos and even toys with him by forcing his armor off while levitating him in the air was an act of class. It's after I watch scenes like this that I wonder what the Sorceress is even capable of. Also, Thanos kind of messed it up when he told her that he didn't even know who she was.
I don't even know who you are.
That kind of statement would get any woman worked up, let alone one that has overpowered magic on her side. I guess they really meant it when they said, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned."
Rain fire!
all this time we were just thinking of Captain America as some buff dude who's only marginally stronger than a standard bodybuilder, but this scene proves us wrong, and how. Steve Rogers shows us the true power of the super soldier serum by holding onto a freaking helicopter, and that too with one arm. The man also had enough time to switch his grip and flex those biceps for people like yours truly to feel motivated about hitting the gym again. Even the Winter Soldier himself was like, bro, how did you get so jacked? Even I can't do that sort of thing. I think the most impressed out of everyone though would be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Not only did Captain America manage to get to the chopper, but he was also able to use it to flex his muscles for the crowd.
I'm always angry.
Bruce Banner becomes a completely different beast when he turns into the Hulk, and it's been proven time and time again as to why there are only a few men who can match up to him in terms of brute strength. Take this moment for example, where Bruce takes only 2 business seconds to turn into the angry green giant and smash a freaking Leviathan with only 1 punch. First of all, the size difference is something to be amazed by, because it's kind of like an ant punching an elephant and taking it down with just a single blow. I'm really tempted to use another One Punch Man joke here, but I think it's fair to say that Bruce Banner is a certified anime fan by now. Everything about this scene plays out in a way that resembles the genre.
Hold on!
It should come as no surprise to see this movie dominating so many entries higher up on my list. There's just so much going on that I could dedicate a whole video just to Infinity War itself. In this case, we're looking at Thanos throwing a freaking moon at Iron Man. It's kind of funny that the first time we're seeing Tony Stark in this video is when the Mad Titan tosses a celestial object at him. But hey, any amount of Iron Man content is enough to make this fan happy. This moment was teased right from the trailers. That didn't do too much to reduce the impact audiences felt when they saw this one on the big screen. I mean, how do you get bigger than a damn moon? Thanos really raised the standards of what it means to be an MCU villain. Maybe that's why we haven't really liked anyone who came after him. Just like the MCU has Infinity War dominating this list, the X-Men franchise has Apocalypse as well. This time, it's the tricky quickie who makes an instant impact by saving a bunch of lives before we can even blink. Well, we get to see the whole thing in ultra slow motion, so that earlier statement was for real-time tracking. Anyway, I've praised this scene plenty enough, but what I don't get is how Alex Summers managed to sabotage himself so bad that even Quicksilver couldn't save him. Having said that, there are some funny gags in the middle of this epic rescue that elevates it to a whole other level in my eyes. I still prefer the first slow motion rescue to this one in terms of general impact. When it comes to power displays, this one takes the cake. Yep. This was as predictable as Lady Deadpool being played by Blake Lively. Anyway, Thor's Wakanda entrance was already teased in my earlier entry, but it deserves a special spot of its own simply because of how repetitive it is. I watch this scene more often than I stream Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, and trust me, I love that song. This will be Chris Hemsworth's peak career moment because nowhere in the world will you ever get to see such audiences' reactions to any scenes or movies that came after this. The pump I felt at this moment made me want to pick up an axe and fight my neighbor. Thank God I talked myself out of that one, otherwise I'd have to make these videos from prison, wouldn't I?
Bring me Thanos!
Yep, there's There's no way I'm doing a list like this without including Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. The train-saving scene managed to tick all the right boxes. It was an epic moment at the time of its release. It remains a legendary scene even 20 years later, and Peter Parker's face has been cemented in meme history as well. Also, if you've watched Invincible on Amazon Prime,
Finally! Oh my god, this is it! Tell everyone to hang on!
then there's this scene that I'm sure was inspired by this moment. Of course, it's not a pleasant watch, but if you know, you know. Okay, back to the main point, which is that pulling this off would be impossible in most cases. When it comes to your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, he's the literal embodiment of the Adidas tagline. If you're as powerful and noble as the Man of Steel, then it makes sense for him to do a little cheating every now and then. When it comes to Lois Lane, Clark Kent would be willing to do anything, and that statement is proven true when he turns back time to make sure his bae gets her life back. This is probably the highest level of simp behavior, but if the man can pull off such a ridiculous level of power to get this done, then I don't think anyone will be able to complain against him. Plus, look at the rage on display here. There's no way on earth you want to face the Man of Steel when he's in that kind of mood.
It is forbidden for you to interfere with human history. It is forbidden. It is forbidden.
Boom! I got you with a scene that trumps all the Dominators so far on this list. The Flash reversing time only tops the Superman version because not only does it look better due to the visual effects of a more recent era, but also because it saves the entire world, including Superman himself. I'm pretty sure that holds a lot more value than one Lois Lane, right? The stakes were high as they could get, and in the middle of all this tension, one man rises above his injury to save humanity and prevent the anti-life equation from coming into effect. That's why Mr. Barry Allen is numero uno today. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to the TV Regent, and here's another video I know you're going to enjoy.